Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. And I'm glad that I'm not anyone else, because they're slacking their work while I'm covertly drugged and fumed. Matthew 12, verse 5. Or haven't you read in the law that the priests on Sabbath day in the temple desecrate the Sabbath and yet are innocent? I tell you that something greater than the temple is here. If you would have known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. You also would not have set up your LGBT, white, and Jewish supremacy churches while changing my voice, right? Whoever is not with me is against me, and whoever does not gather with me scatters. So that's verse 30. Okay, going down to verse 33. Make a tree good, and its fruit will be good, or make a tree bad, and its fruit will be bad. For a tree is recognized by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you who are evil say anything good? For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. How can you, who are from a long line of people who do immature circus cycle-like bitch shit, claim to represent God, claim to be valid leaders, claim to be valid husbands, claim to have valid families? For your actions are pouring forth what your heart is full of, and you have a lack of heart, you have a lack of courage, and your hearts are evil, they're dull, they're calloused. They're monstrous. They're perverted and perverse. They've yoked themselves to child molesters and their spirits. You brood of vipers, how can you who are evil, again, evil, 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 have the nerve to go into the churches and teach the mosques, the synagogues? You who are allowed by the most evil generation there ever was, the most evil governing class. What you're doing is so stupid. What I'm doing is so wise. Yet you've raised your females to choose people like you, who say stupid stuff like, well, the problem is he can't get laid. No, the problem is you worship the devil like your forefathers, and you have no intention of stopping. You can't stop even if you wanted to. Because the principles that would allow you to change course won't exist after my flesh dies. They won't be able to be expressed, that is. And you are the type of people who probably would take me out of context because you never grew up. It's like everyone else who's been evil in history. In reality, obviously. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and an evil man brings up evil things out of the evil stored in him. Right? Focus moral intensity from what? From the moral good stored in me. You who make it harder for me to make my videos, how do you think this helps you? How do you think it helps you? On your genes, on your spirits, on your offspring are the despicable, petty things that you've done to the most righteous person ever. That's who you are. That's who your offspring will be. They will not have the fine clothes, the fine linen that stands for the righteous acts of the saints that will allow them to go to heaven. They'll just have some LGBT and pederasty forged, fancy apparel, if that. Worldly apparel. Blood money clothing. Woe to they who are dressed well in a country that bends over backwards to make sure that I'm not. You're like the Pharisees, the evil Pharisees who wanted the most important seats. You want to be seen as important. I will never forget that you wanted to be seen as important at the most important time in history, and that you were pure evil scum doing evil things to try to achieve it. May God never forget that and always hate you for it. Verse 36, but I tell you that everyone will have to give account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. For by your hands you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned. I wonder who's in the right here. Obviously, I don't wonder that. It's me and not you. The sign of Jonah. Then some of the Pharisees and teachers of the law said to him, Teacher, we want to see a sign from you. He answered, a wicked and adulterous generation asked for a sign. A wicked and adulterous generation. A wicked and adulterous generation in the end asked for them and their offspring to be forgiven. The answer is no fucking way, no how. But none will be given except the sign of the prophet Jonah. John A. My Christian name, so to speak, I'm actually Christ, but my Christian name is John. The men of Nineveh will stand up at judgment with this generation and condemn it, as they will with the generation I'm living in now. For they repented at the preaching of Jonah. And now something greater than Jonah is here. Now something greater than what was there back then is here. The top martial arts ever possible. And you did not repent. How evil are you people? The queen of the south will rise at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. For she came from the ends of the earth to listen to Solomon's wisdom, his actions. And now something greater than Solomon is here. Everyone who was far too much of a man if they're male, and far too much of a woman if they're female, to take part in changing my voice and mocking God will rise with this generation and hate and condemn them. When an impure spirit comes out of a person, it goes through arid places seeking rest and does not find it. Like these impure people trying to interfere with this video right now, trying to take credit. Can you imagine being such a punk that you try to take Jesus? We're trying to hack his brain and take credit. We're taking credit for him being 6'4", for him being mulatto, for him, being the top martial. These are things I was born with, genius. My videos would have been much better if you didn't interfere. Thank you very much. Then it says, I will return to the house I left. When it arrives, it finds the house unoccupied, swept clean and put in order. Then it goes and takes with it 7 other spirits, more wicked than itself. And they, and then they basically go in and lie there. And the final condition of that person is worse than the first. This is how it will be with this wicked generation. Jesus' mother and brother. While Jesus was still talking to the crowd, his mother and brother stood outside. Remember, they're standing there, wanting to speak to him. Someone told him, your mother and brother standing outside wanting to speak to you. He replied to him, who is my mother and who are my brothers? Pointing to his disciples, he said, here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. So whoever does the will of God is from the tribe that is most suited to them in the story. Not the flesh. But none of you can do the will of God. That's a key part right there. Whoever does the will of my Father. It cannot be done after my flesh dies. So you and your offspring will not be my mother and my brothers, so to speak, and my sisters. Pretty straightforward. Let's just do Matthew 14. Let's wrap this video up here. Matthew 14:30. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, Lord, save me. Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. You of little faith, he said, why did you doubt? So these things can be taken as harsh statements, as insults. They're basically insults. It's just like the things I said, like in this video. You could say, wow, that's insulting. That's hateful. That's this, that's that. But it's consistent with the story. And there's no way to effectively explain the story. Woe to those people who explain it as if Jesus magically is some fairy or something, who just forgives everyone and loves everyone. Just love everyone. That's all you got to do. I'll just believe. That's bullshit. All throughout all the 4 Gospels, insult after insult. Wait till we get to Matthew 23, perhaps the most insulting chapter in the whole Bible, and it's what Jesus says. The most insulting character in the Bible, who insults all the scum from bottom to top, and back down and back up. But you people go to your churches in a state of extreme rebellion, and you conform to your LGBT spirits. Again, the point isn't to insult the LGBT community, but you better know for sure that God's spirit does not have a speck of LGBT in it. That if you're LGBT, if you don't repent, you're going to hell. You can't be LGBT and go to heaven. And my right to say that far transcends some racist LGBT sissy's right to argue that he's offended and it shouldn't be said. Okay, so why did I say it that way? Should they allow me to say it that way? Yes. Because the whole kind of core theme of the religion is you have to live a certain way. You have to repent and atone for sins. You have to make it right with your adversary or you go to hell. You have to judge for yourself what is right after you're given the proper scale. And you have to come into the divine order and you have to do it. Okay, the divine order gives you that judgment. It refines your judgment. It perfects you, makes you more pure. The idea of holy waters is pure. So when the religion, which is an option for people straight and gay alike, says that you have to be straight and straight-minded in a straight culture, in a straight state of being in the divine order to go to heaven, okay, that is clear, that it's fair for me to say that. I'm giving the LGBT community the option to change their ways and go to heaven the same way I'm giving straight people who are sexually immoral or who steal from people or whatever the case may be that option. No one has the right to tell me or anyone else that they disagree with what a sin is in a religion, okay, when they have no viable counterargument and they don't have to be a part of that religion. They don't have to join that religion. And other people have their interpretations to their extreme disgrace, mind you, and they might accept X, Y, and Z, okay? But I'm teaching the pure gospel. And on top of that, I'm not going to have any children. So this should not be a problem. What I'm doing is not a long-term movement that is going to suppress the LGBT community. I'm on my way out. And I've treated them with a certain respect over the years. And I would like them to reciprocate that. Thank you.